Let's work together now by cleaning the air that we breathe.
Welcome to AQMD On the Air. I'm your host, Alan Caldwell. Joining me today is the Chief Executive Officer of the Orange County Transportation Authority, Mr. Will Kempton. Mr. Kempton, thank you for joining me.
And thank you for having me.
Before we get into specifics, can you provide a brief overview of OCTA's future vision in dealing with cleaning the air that we breathe and environmental sustainability?
Well, I think environmental sustainability is a subject that has come on people's radar screens relatively recently. OCTA is committed to environmental sustainability in Orange County and across the Southern California region. Clearly, air quality in our region is something that's very, very important, very critical to the quality of life of our residents, and so I think that focus on the part of transportation agencies is absolutely essential. So we've signed the American Public Transportation Association's sustainability commitment along with 35 other agencies around the country. We're looking to at ways to be able to get people out of their cars and into alternative forms of transportation. Our fleet is 95% fueled by alternative fuels. We're engaged in the SB 375 Sustainable Community Strategy Development. In fact, we're one of two organizations within the Southern California Association of Governments region that will be doing that effort on the part of SCAG, be submitting that to SCAG. So there's clearly a commitment to sustainability in our programs. But we also have to recognize that we have a commitment to our voters in Orange County who approved the first measure, sales tax measure in this county back in 1990, and then approved a second measure here in 2006. That commitment is to the projects and the programs that were included in that measure. Among them, two programs related to environmental sustainability, not so much for air quality, but for land preservation, for water runoff, and those sorts of things. So there's a variety of things that we're doing, the development of alternative energy, solar panels on some of our facilities. Those kinds of things are all demonstrative of the commitment we have to environmental sustainability.
As you know, Senate Bill 375 deals specifically with reducing emissions from vehicle traffic. Can you talk a little bit about how OCTA is implementing Senate Bill 375 to address those emissions?
Well, as I mentioned, we are one of two sub-agencies within the SCAG region that will be developing our own sustainable community strategy, and we're working with the Orange County Council of Governments in partnership with that effort. We're taking it very seriously. Orange County has raised issues relative to the not only with the Southern California Association of Governments, but also directly with the State California Air Resources Board relative to the level of the targets that have been set. We think we've got to achieve a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. We're just concerned about targets that may be unachievable. But we're going to work through this process. We're committed to some positive results. We will be working with SCAG very closely to make sure that our submittal is reflective of what can be achieved in this county.
I know that you deal a lot with transportation issues, that you have a lot of experience both on the public and the private side. And also understand that AQMD has been reaching out to work with transportation authorities to help develop solutions to address air quality issues. Can you talk about the importance of those two entities working together to address these issues?
Well, I think AQMD is doing a good job of strengthening those partnerships, and I think that's critical. I think Caltrans and the CTC and some of the other state agencies that are involved in transportation kinds of decisions need to be reciprocal in terms of responding to the fact that Barry Wallerstein has been reaching out and is trying to engage those agencies in these kinds of decisions. The other thing I would say is early involvement. And that, again, could be the result of an improved partnership because the earlier involvement of the Air Quality Management District is going to really make sure that that input is brought up early in the process development or the project development phase, and that means that the actual projects that are being sponsored by these agencies will be more reflective of AQMD goals.
I know that the OCTA is responsible for many of the freeway improvements throughout the county. Can you talk about how OCTA is working to reduce pollution related to the maintenance of those freeways?
Well, while we have a large-scale freeway and street and road program, in fact, 75% of our measure is committed to those projects, I think people have to recognize that most of our projects on the freeway system, and for that matter on local streets and roads, are directed at congestion reduction. If you reduce congestion, you're having a positive impact on air quality, and so clearly there will be some benefit to that. But we're not just focused on freeways and streets and roads here at OCTA. We have a vibrant rail program in Orange County, and in fact we're looking to increase the number of trains operating in our county from 44 trains today, each day, to 76 trains by the end of the 30 years of our measure program. And I'd like to see that happen sooner or later. I think our rail corridor is one of the most underutilized transportation assets we have here in Orange County. We're also looking at how to better improve our interface with our transit operations and the rail system. So just because we've had to undergo some serious cuts to our program from a monetary perspective during this economic downturn, and that's not been good, and that's not positive from an air quality perspective, if we can revamp our transit operation to make it more effective, for example, providing access to and from our rail trunk line, that's going to make for a better interface of those two modes of transportation and going to make them work more effectively, and it's going to attract more people, hopefully, out of their cars and into rail and transit.
Well, you mentioned rail and transit, and I know that those are two components that are very important to OCTA's mission. Can you talk a little bit about how you market and encourage people to use public transportation or other alternatives such as carpooling?
Well, again, we have a number of programs. One of the things that we're doing here in Orange County, which is not being duplicated in the Southern California region, but which occurs up in the northern part of the state, is continuous access HOV lanes. Simply by making it easier to use HOV lanes, we think that's going to increase the number of folks who will actually carpool. One of the biggest criticisms that I've heard of our operation in Southern California is that you get in the HOV lane and you're restricted in terms of your ingress and egress for the until you can come to another opening and demarcation. And continuous access does work very effectively in Northern California, so that's one way that we can do it. We have a vibrant van pool program. We've got more than 300 van pools that we support here in Orange County. I mentioned that we're very interested in our rail and transit operations. I think we're going to need to improve our marketing efforts to be able to attract people out of their cars and into public transportation. I believe that once people try these alternative forms of transportation, they'll see how effective they work. It's beyond me why anybody would drive their car from Orange County to Los Angeles, as an example, during the day, because that train trip to LA Union Station is so easy. You can use the time on the train to relax, to do your work, to read. It just makes very good sense that we would get more people out of their cars and into rail and transit operations.
Mr. Kempton, I want to switch gears for a minute, specifically talking about legislation. The Surface Transportation and Reauthorization Act, as you know, is coming up, and I was wondering, what do you think that act will do to help clean the air that we breathe and continue to provide transportation services to the public?
Well, first of all, I think we need reauthorization desperately. We need to revamp the transportation program, and it needs to be reflective of the direction in which we're moving. And we're taking a leadership role here in Southern California in a lot of respects. But if you take a look at the House version of the bill that's been proposed, it's a substantial increase in financing for transportation. That's number one. We need more resources dedicated to transportation. About $50 billion of that increase is dedicated really to rail kinds of operations. High-speed rail, more intercity rail, and certainly providing dollars for capital development and transit. And in some respects, also making some operating dollars available in extreme circumstances, such as we've just experienced with the downturn of the economy. So as we revamp the transportation program through the next authorizing legislation, it needs to be more reflective of the values that exist today, obviously sustainability, clearly the need to improve air quality, and the mobility demands that we all face. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention also the need for federal engagement in the goods movement program. Freight is an extremely important aspect of the transportation program in this country, and certainly in the state of California and in our region, given the ports of LA and Long Beach, but it's also very important from an air quality perspective. So if we can get more federal investment in a national freight policy, which would not only look to find ways to move goods out of the port areas more quickly and through our communities and getting them from port to market, but also looking at ways to develop these ports and to improve them from a standpoint of emission reductions and the protection of air quality.
Before we close, can you provide some insight on how OCTA plans to deal with a growing economy and with the environmental challenges of goods movement?
Well, it's a huge challenge. Very clearly, our economy and also our quality of life depend on how effectively we deal with this. Here in Orange County, while we're not directly affected by the ports being in our area, we are in close proximity to them. A lot of the goods move through our roadways by truck and also through our rail systems. And so we are working as part of the overall goods movement program statewide to improve grade crossings all along the Burlington Northern Santa Fe line that runs through Orange County, and it was a major west to east connection for moving goods out of the ports and into other parts of the country. Those grade separations, 7 of them in total, will provide a very distinct advantage for the easier movement of those goods, but it also has a significant air quality benefit in that we will be eliminating the at-grade crossings that exist today when you have long trains going over a length of track with cars backed up at those crossings, sitting there idling and spewing emissions into the air. So there's a dual benefit from that. But we also are going to be pushing hard for, and this is from a regional perspective, for an adequate investment from the federal government and adequate attention to the needs of freight movement in this country.
Mr. Kempton, I want to thank you for joining me. And I thank you for your commitment to providing clean public transportation. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Well, thank you, and we look forward to a continuing partnership with the AQMD.
Well, that's our show. Thank you for watching AQMD on the Air and helping us clean the air that we breathe.
Let's work together. Let's work together.